Well, welcome in Star Wars Newsnet Live, a different version of Star Wars Newsnet Live as you're percolating in. It's just going to be me today. Going to be a little bit of a solo podcast. I have some good stuff, though. Trust me. I have a Star Wars Celebration 6-pack that I'm going to unload. Not like an actual, 6-pack, but 6 things, Star Wars Celebration 6-pack we're going to unload. Got some Andor thoughts. We have a fantastic little sizzle behind the scenes reel that they gave us this week. I think those, before I even get into my main thoughts, but I think those are better than trailers a lot of times for these shows, for these TV shows, these streaming shows. Give us a look behind the curtain. You can still plug in enough of what is happening, enough of what is taking place on the show, but it still feels like almost informative too. Like you're getting this, behind the curtain. I'm seeing what the creatives have to say. I'm seeing what the actors have to say, while also getting a little bit of a look at what's to come. I wish they did more of these, frankly, for the other shows out there that maybe could have used it a little bit more in a way like this Andor one. It just seems elevated. Like everything with Andor feels elevated beyond what normal Disney Plus is for whatever reason, whether it's the sets, it's the creative team around it. It's a number of factors, but Celebration 6-pack coming your way. We have more Andor talk on the way. And then like the main thing I really want to talk about, but really pick brains of those who are going to tune in tonight, are like what's happening with Rey. Like what's the future of Rey going to look like? Because we all read that interview with Kathleen Kennedy. We all read that, and there no mention of Rey in there. None whatsoever. I'm not saying that was an intentional bleep out, an intentional, we're not going to go here. Let them know beforehand. Don't ask me questions about this character, this movie, because we're not talking about it right now. Or if the fact that she's announcing these other things is hinting at, okay, we have more in the pipeline with Rey ready to go soon, because there's going to be a script any day now. So I want to do a little bit more of a Rey deep dive. But there is something on my mind before we even talk about Star Wars. There's like a broader discussion that I really want to have, because I watched the Oscars. And I love the Oscars. I'm a big award show guy for movies. TV shows, I don't really pay attention unless there's some sort of Star Wars thing attached. But the Oscars, to me, encapsulates so much of just modern discussion of how it's held online or at your just actual normal gathering with friends. And it's everyone has suddenly become the expert. This is the society we live in, where everyone is an expert on everything without having any experience in the actual thing. And I'm considered like the movie guy in my friend group in a large respect. And I have not seen several of the films that were being talked about. Like, I will never see The Substance. That movie is going to freak me out, I think, in a way that I'm not mentally prepared for. I have not seen Media Press. I have not seen those 2 films. But I'm here giving opinions on these films. Like I am some expert, it's coming up. I'm like, due to this controversy, everything on Twitter, Media Press, they're not going to win this one. Or I'm watching, best animated film, and I look around at everyone, hey, Wild Robot, it's a lock for animated film, guys. It's a lock for best animated film. And then it doesn't even win. And I have to then go into a diatribe like analysis on the movie Flow, and how Flow somehow should have, Flow really deserved this. Brazil is great for Brazil. We're gonna get a big chunk of audience tuning in here from South America, all these things. And I'm just saying that I think even in the broader discussion of life, is like how poignant is that, how most of our discussions now are, I'm not much of a budget expert, but let me give you my state on the economic situation here. I'm not much of a doctor, but I can diagnose you right now. I think it's just so interesting how social media, I think, has amplified that in such a way where, it's great too, because we get these diverse platforms of people giving their thoughts, giving their opinions, but we also have more experts now than we ever had ever before. And I think the Oscars brings that out. And sometimes it's a good thing. Like sometimes it's not bad. We can have these funny conversations. Like just sitting there with my fiance and we're debating what movies are going to win, which ones and why. And I have not seen the movies that I'm arguing are going to win. She has not seen some movies she's arguing for that are going to win. But, it is what it is. So maybe we do that about Star Wars too. I will be honest, I've come on here and given an opinion on like a Star Wars book that I read 8 years ago and barely remember, but I have a super strong opinion about it. Absolutely. So the Oscars, yeah, the Oscars kind of bring that out, I think, in a lot of people. But I want to open up. Celebration is coming up here, and they just announced like the four major panels. I want to push back against maybe Visions season 3 being considered a major panel, but we're in Japan and Visions and Japan, it makes sense that we are going to have an elevated platform for Visions. But I need your help in the comments tonight to give me some thoughts on this celebration. But I have a 6-pack of ideas for celebration that I want to get into because it feels like it's going to be a bit more of a conservative celebration, which there are reasons for this that we can get into tonight. But let's go ahead. Number one here, I think we're going to start with some positive before we get into maybe a few negatives in this 6-pack for Star Wars Celebration. Number one, Favreau's cooking up a major panel. The Mandalorian and Grogu is the number one. It's the panel. It is the headlining panel for Star Wars here in just a month. This has to hit big. We're going to get into the no Star Wars showcase panel, all of that. There's no Star Wars showcase. Like Mando and Grogu is the showcase. We know about, Andor is fantastic. I can't wait for Andor. Ahsoka season 2 is going to be fun. It's all coming. Visions is nice, but they're not feature films. They are not why people are initially drawn to Star Wars. That is movies. And Favreau has to be cooking up something really special here. Like I'm thinking that there are going to be not one, but two big surprises from this panel. Maybe not in the sense of we're going to this planet or this is what shows up in the trailer, but maybe they bring out some surprise members of the cast that haven't been announced yet. I hope that maybe we can get Pedro there. Sigourney Weaver can show up and we get to see like the cast maybe fully fleshed out, because this has to be where we leave Celebration. Mando and Grogu panel needs to be what propels us in the news cycle for the next several months, because Andor is going to come and go so fast. Like it's going to be a snap of a fingers and it's here and then it's gone. But Mando Grogu is the next feature film. Mando Grogu is what is going to push Star Wars back in the theaters for the first time since the Skywalker saga. It's going to be a big barometer, a big testing meter for what Star Wars' fan engagement looks like right now, because there's a very easy scenario where we're sitting here a little over a year from now talking about how back Star Wars is because we're fresh off Andor winning Emmys at the award shows and doing a nice run there. And then we're sitting here going, wow, Mando and Grogu just raked in $550 million for a movie that was brought over from our streaming service into the big screen over characters that have nothing to do with the Skywalker saga. And we're raking in $500 million, and the budget for that's not going to balloon to some extreme size. I would be shocked if we see this budget, if it's a massive budget, I will be very surprised. So Favreau has to be cooking up something special. And I think it goes beyond just the trailer. I'm sure we've all seen the grainy little footage of the trailer from, the D23 in Brazil. Fantastic. It looked really fun. Like we saw Grogu going around with the Anzellans. We saw, him going down a mountain with an ATSTs there firing at him. That can't be the trailer they're going to drop. I think we're going to see more footage. There's going to be some more characters involved, but at the core, this needs to be a Mando and Grogu story. But I don't think the big splash from this trailer can simply be the trailer. Like the big splash from this panel can't just be the trailer. we need to have a bigger moment that we can be excited about that's going to, percolate all over social media for the next, few weeks. And part of the reason why maybe we went a little conservative, and this is the major panel, is they don't want to jump the gun. Kathleen Kennedy went out in that Deadline interview and said, yep, we are going to be doing this Sean Levy movie that takes place 5 to 6 years after The Rise of Skywalker. And, she didn't deny that Ryan Gosling is going to be starring in that movie. So I'm assuming Ryan Gosling's on board. Sean Levy's ready to go. This thing's going to go into production. But I don't think that's going to play any role at Celebration. I thought her announcing that and then even bringing up Simon Kinberg might lead us to some, whoa, what are we going to talk about here at Celebration? But I wonder if we're really going to rein it in and really reel it back to just the things we know for sure are going to happen and what those timelines are. Because I wonder if there's a little bit of pushback given last Celebration. We all remember on the main stage, Dave Filoni standing there talking, where he's going to be making his movie, quote unquote, Heir to the Empire movie. You bring on Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy and Daisy Ridley coming back to play Rey. And we know about the issues going on with that movie. It has been an ongoing, difficult process. So, hello, Oscar. It's good to see you. Okay. I digress here. I just wonder if they want to really play it safe at this Celebration and just say, here we go. We got Andor. We know it's going to be great. We need to get Mando and Grogu some big hype train, down the tracks, and trust that these other movies are going to get going. And next Celebration, or in 2 years for the 50th, we go all out. Star Wars is back. We've been back on the big screen. We have 2 trailers for upcoming movies ready to go. The future of Disney Plus is ready to go. You'll have a new president at that time, or co-presidents. We'll see. I feel like, I've said before, Dave Filoni, Carrie Beck, seems like they're going to mesh up. But all of that to say, Mando and Grogu has to be a kick-ass panel. It just has to. If this panel is lackluster, we're out here for, an hour, and we just hear Filoni and Favreau do their usual talking about how great it is to play in the sandbox, and, oh, it's like being a kid playing with your toys in the sandbox. Here we go. If it's just a bunch of that, and on an elevated platform of this is just now going to be a movie, then I'll be really disappointed. I think this needs, beyond just a trailer, we need to see what the cast looks like, because all we know right now is we have Mando, we have Grogu, so Pedro's gonna be voicing, Din. We have Grogu's gonna be running around, little puppet. We know Sigourney Weaver's gonna be in this, and some details of her character would be nice. We know some rumors that are out there. And it would also be really sweet if you had some other people start to come forward, like bring out, oh my gosh, some of the other Mandalorians that might, pop up. I'm blanking right now, but bring out Bo-Katan for a minute. Oh my goodness, what is her name? Someone in the Oscar in the chat here, like, drop me Bo-Katan actress name, because I am absolutely blanking. And I'm literally watching Battlestar Galactica. Katie Sackhoff. Oh my goodness. I'm literally watching Battlestar Galactica right now with my roommates. And if you haven't seen, quick side note, but if you haven't seen Battlestar Galactica with Katie Sackhoff, and that show is amazing. They don't make them like that anymore. I cannot believe the amount that they pack in to season 1. It's actually incredible what that show is able to do. So, 6-pack of Star Wars Celebration. Number 1, Favreau's cooking up a major panel. Has to be. Number 2, there will be tears in the Andor panel. For those of you going to Japan, be prepared to cry when you're in the Andor season 2 panel for a number of reasons. Number 1, this is the end of our time with all of these characters. We're not going to see Cassian and K2 again, because we know what happens Rogue One. Most of the characters in this show are going to die. And I don't think we're going to be getting a spinoff of the spinoff here in, Disney Plus. Maybe there's like an animated project where one of them pops in an animated form for some form or fashion. We have books that are coming out for these Reign of the Empire trilogy, sure, but there's nothing like going to be this again. There's nothing like it that's going to take place. This is it. And I think the cast is going to reflect on that for a little bit, because there are only a few moments. I think about these panel moments in Star Wars where some of the cast gets together and it is like a really emotional time. Like they're gonna be there promoting Andor, but when will we get that group of people maybe there again to promote something or have this anniversary? Like, will Andor be a show that gets a 10-year anniversary panel where Tony Gilroy is coming back and Diego Luna's there? I don't know. We don't know those things. So I think it's important to for the people involved and the people that are there to appreciate that. And I think we're going to have tears because I think they're going to show at minimum the first episode of that panel. It's possible they show the first two. I don't think they're going to show the first arc, but maybe the first episode. I think someone is going to bite the dust early. Someone important is going to bite the dust early. Like, I think it's possible that Brasso dies in the first arc. Like, maybe there's something this with the grassy field playing planets. They've shown a lot of that with, the grassy planet. Maybe he's doing farming and you have, Cassian coming in on the TIE Avenger. It's possible, in my opinion, that's one of the early first 3 episodes maybe that we get. This is all right. This is where they're at right now. This is what's happening. Boom. Empire comes in. Somewhat important bites the dust early. Brasso to me feels like the number one candidate for that because I think Bix is going to play a larger role in the season moving forward. Obviously, you have most of the other major characters can't die in this show. So if there are going to be tears from just showing the show, Brasso seems like a really easy person to bite the dust. Not that I'm wanting Brasso to die. I would love Brasso to live on forever and just be a brick slaying, stormtrooper slaying with bricks guy for the rest of his life. Like that's my perfect life for him. That's what I think many people's life for him would envision. So that's number 2. But yeah, like Oscar says here is no more Andor, but we can hope to get Andor in literature, novels, comics. I agree to an extent, just because we need to see who survives this show outside of the characters we've already fleshed out. Because we know Mon Mothma is going to play a role in Ahsoka season 2 and what they're doing at the Mandoverse. Like we know we're going to see Genevieve O'Reilly again, which is really exciting. But the rest of these characters, for the most part, I think could bite the dust sooner rather than later. And then how often does Star Wars revisit, some of these characters? It's not often, like maybe a comic here or there, maybe a book here or there. But I'm excited too for new things, like moving forward, closing the book on this and moving forward in the saga, which I think was what many people looking for in Kathleen Kennedy's interview excited them about moving forward in the saga, having a brand new saga coming up as well. So number 3 here in our 6-pack. Like I mentioned before, it's a really conservative celebration. Right now, we are still a month and change out, like a month out here. It's possible that something else materializes in this month. I don't think it's impossible that the Mandalorian and Grogu panel, everything comes together, but then maybe they get a call, from Sean Levy, and they push for him to come, and he's actually able to make it. And they want to do a little surprise at the end where, our movie's not the only movie that's coming out, at some point, here's someone else. And Sean Levy comes out and kind of hijacks the stage for a little bit. It wouldn't shock me, but right now, that seems like they really want to focus on projects they know are in development right now, or in Mando and Grogu's case, finished filming. We're post-production. That thing's going to be ready to go so fast. I mean, they're going to be sitting on that thing for a year. That might be the direction that we're going in here, is just having like a nice conservative, like a chill panel where we can say, hey, we don't have to take a risk, because this isn't going to be, this is an experiment for them in a lot of ways too. They're trying to expand the Star Wars fandom beyond just, the West, and having this celebration all the way in Japan is a way that they can do that. And so I really am curious though, to see, is there any risk taking involved? Right now, there's none. And if they do that, that's fine. But I have to be honest that myself, and I think most people, when they saw the slate of the quote unquote major panels, They kind of did a double take. Really? That's what we're going with here? Nothing against, Ahsoka season 2, but really? That's the number 3 biggest panel at a celebration, a show that hasn't even begun filming, where we don't necessarily know much of anything that's happening right now with that. So we'll see what happens. It's a really conservative celebration right now. I don't think that's a bad thing right now, though. I think that Star Wars is in a place where they need to make sure that they get some easy wins. They need some layups coming off of what happened. I think Andor is going to be a nice breath of fresh air. It's going to renew optimism and faith in the franchise a little bit, even though a lot of people, maybe I'm just generalizing here, but I think most people don't even view Andor. It's like Disney Plus Star Wars. They view Star Wars here and then Andor in this different box, and they're not the same. But regardless, I think we're out for something special with it. Number 4, the Ahsoka panel will bring at least one major update. And I just kind of bashed on the Ahsoka panel. But it is the 3rd largest panel at Celebration. Like, you can't just sit there and reminisce over season 1 that happened 2 years ago and expect me to be, super awe-inspired. And they can't tell me too much about season 2. So to me, the only way that this can really become a bigger thing is if Hayden's sitting there. We all know that Hayden Christensen's going to be in season 2. Like, we know it. But it's one thing if we know it versus Hayden sitting there on stage going, "Oh, my role is a little bit bigger in season 2." And he talks about being able to chat with Rosario more, and they're going to have more, Padawan Master chats in season 2. And him just confirming that on stage, someone like Hayden, he's not like legacy from the OGs, but for a lot of Star Wars fans like myself who grew up with the prequel trilogy, who viewed our prequel stars in the same light as like the OGs from back in the day, like, not to discredit the original trilogy, but I am a prequel trilogy, child. So Hayden Christensen being in something, for me personally, it just elevates my excitement to a new level. Ewan McGregor being in something, makes me really excited. Seeing those characters on stage talking about Star Wars gets me just as excited as I might see most other people talk about anything. So if he's on stage going, "I'm in season 2, I'm confirming it, I'm going to have a bigger role or a more, interesting role this season," I would be all about that. I think that bringing Rory McCann to Celebration, maybe as a surprise that he is there and he can pay an homage to his friend Ray Stevenson, and announcing that Rory McCann is going to be Baylan Skoll moving forward, I think is a step in the right direction. It's positive to move forward with this character, with someone I think is going to do the character justice, but also, him and Ray knew each other. They were friends. Like, they go way back. So I think you can do this very delicately, appropriately, but enthusiastically as well, because we're moving forward with Ahsoka season 2, and Ray Stevenson's legacy with Baylan Skoll will always live on. And now the character will also be able to move forward with someone that he would consider a friend. And I think that honestly is the most special way that it could move forward. So I think that's a great idea. The Ahsoka panel has to do a little bit more than just, we're going to sit, reminisce on season 1, and then, catch you up on when we're going to start filming, which we all know is going to be this summer, because the show has to come out in 2026. It has to. Which 2026 is going to be a banger. We have Mando and Grogu, Ahsoka in the fall, some animation somewhere. I cannot wait. So number 5 here, Vision's season 3 panel. This may be controversial. I don't know. If this is controversial, let me know. I need to know. But the Vision season 3 panel should just be an animation panel. And I know that, Visions has, without Japan, there is no Star Wars Visions, and the world of animation just looks so different without Japan. I understand all of this, but in terms of the broader Star Wars narrative, we don't know anything about the future of Star Wars animation in terms of its titular project, because we know that Vision season 3 is coming out, and having seen all the Visions, I really like Visions, but it's not something that I go back to and I'm like, let me just rewatch Visions tonight. It's more of a, for me, it's more of a, it came, it went, I move on. It's not the Bad Batch, where season 3 of the Bad Batch was an event. Like, that was something that every single week I sat down and was eagerly awaiting. Visions came out. I got to it a few weeks after. I watched an episode here or there, but it wasn't I got to sit down and watch Visions right now. And if we're considering this, like, I think one of the post was, we have the 4 major panels of Vision season 3, and culturally makes sense. But I think you can honor Visions in a really big way, like a really important way, but still having this focus be the broader scale of animation. Like, you can go ahead and let us know, was Tales of the Empire last year fully replacing Tales of the Jedi, which you said was happening? Because if so, that'd be great to know. If not, a lot of us are still sitting here going, we'd like some more Tales of the Jedi. Like, there's a lot more meat on the bone there that's ready, like the stories that are ripe to be told. There is a gaping hole for that titular show, like the main show moving forward. What's it going to be? You don't have to drop a trailer for a new animation show that's coming out, September 1st or whatever Tuesdays in September. You don't have to drop one of those, but it would be nice if we knew the direction of animation, because it's been a year since the Bad Batch came out, and Star Wars animation, when the Bad Batch finished, was in a fantastic place. We have seen the return of the Clone Wars season 7, which was fantastic. People loved this. And then we were able to get into a show, the Bad Batch, which at first I was like, this is really the direction that we're going. But as we kept progressing, I think that show garnered a larger fan base as it continued. And I don't think it was one of those where we started out here and then we just dwindled down. I think we may have started here, shrunk, but then by the end of season 3, we expanded. And so I think the general consensus on animated Star Wars projects is, oh, animation kills it. Like, they're always on top of their game. So I'm really surprised we haven't heard anything yet, because I was talking last year during D23 that we would hear about the next animated show for Star Wars. It felt like something that they would share, but we drew blanks there. So now in April, you're at a celebration. This is the place to announce. There's Comic-Cons coming up, things of that nature, but this is a Star Wars celebration. This is the place to announce something, especially when it doesn't seem like you're going to make big movie announcements. There's no more live action Disney Plus announcements that need to be made for new products, like for new content, because Andor we already know about. We've known Ahsoka season 2 is going to film this summer for several months now. So the only thing left to add to the table is the future of Star Wars animation. Are we going to be with Luke and his Jedi, order that he is trying to build? Are we going to, because the Sean Levy movie is going into the future, is the future of Star Wars animation going to take us into the future with brand new stories? Are we going to go back to the past? Is like, what is there? So many directions that animation can go, and they have a little bit more freedom, I think, in terms of what they can choose to tell stories about because of the nature of animation. So I would love for them to be bold and do something a little bit beyond what we have just gotten with Bad Batch, which was a very safe and a more self-contained story that did end up growing to be one with galactic consequences, but not in the scale that we saw, with something like Clone Wars. Like to see comments, Oscar, I'd like to see a series on Omega's adventures with the Rebellion. I will not say no. I just say no right now. I think that it's a perfect opportunity for us to do something different and then let that story marinate for a little bit and then come back and maybe they just did Tales of the Empire. There's a lot of Rebellion content, but you could easily do a Tales of the Rebellion and have some, a 6 episode or 9 episode, section where it's 3 different arcs. You can follow, Omega Squadron in the Rebellion. Boom. You could do like a little one-off with, the Battle of Jakku animated. Those are little things that they can do. We saw Tales of the Empire. I don't think that we need a full series of Omega's adventures with the Rebellion, just because we have Star Wars Rebels, which is so much of how the Rebellion comes to be. We have, Andor obviously takes place in that time period. There's so much in that space, and we had Tales of the Empire taking place, during the time of the Empire and the Rebellion. So it'd be nice if we took a break from that part of the timeline for a bit, but I don't think that this constitutes multiple seasons of a show, but maybe like a 3-episode arc where it's just a small story of her time with the Rebellion that doesn't put a close on her chapter, but leaves it open for more stories. But it'd be nice to get a story. Was she at Jakku? Was Omega at Endor? Was Omega at whatever big battles were taking place? Was she on Hoth? The arc's actually going to be Omega is the one who named Echo Base, like she's, because Echo, died or something. And so she decided she got to name, Hoth Echo Base. That was like her main contribution to the Rebellion. That was the number one thing that she got to do. And other than that, she just kind of chilled. And you could even do something where the old guys get together to go help her out one last time, just like the rallying of the old crew. Let D. Bradley Baker put on his old man face and get his old man voice cranking, because Hunter's like 75 years old, trying to get up out of his little cave dwelling on Pabu, because for whatever reason he's probably camping out there every single night doing who knows what. It's my little analysis on the situation here with Omega. But yeah, I think it should have been the animation panel. I think we'll see something else. But last one here on the Star Wars Celebration 6-pack for you on this Thursday night. We need the anniversary panels. Where is the Revenge of the Sith panel? Where is the, oh my goodness, where is the Force Awakens 10-year anniversary? They could easily, put these in later. I think that, we're still far enough away where these could easily slide in as we get closer. But I was a little sad that we didn't see that right away. Like, this wasn't going to, because we saw that it's coming back in theaters. We have the poster, Hayden's going to be there already. I was hoping that they would be able to, when we saw the guest list and Ewan, wasn't necessarily on there yet. I was like, oh man, are we not going to get that 25 or that 20-year Revenge of the Sith, panel? I was really hoping for that. I think that could be just wonderful to see everyone together again. But if that's not in the cards, it's not in the cards. I mean, Oscar Isaac's going to be there. I hope that they bring in Daisy. A 10-year Force Awakens panel would also be really nice. Again, we have time. We need the anniversary panels. There's just something magical about getting the crew back together again after such a long time. Last year I was at MegaCon here in Orlando, had a big, 20-year whatever Clone Wars, and our 15-year, I forget the years, but whatever, anniversary panel of Clone Wars. And, they had Matt Lanter, they had, Ashley Eckstein, they had D. Bradley Baker, they had James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan. They had everybody, and it was just beautiful moment of them sharing their stories, sharing inspiration, fans being able to offer their excitement, fans able to share, moments that impacted them. And I think that having the spaces for something like this is wonderful. And this is what a celebration is all about, is literally celebrating Star Wars. It's about pushing the fandom forward, but also reflecting on, what has come in the past and how we got where we are. And 20 years of Revenge of the Sith, it means more, I think, to people of like my generation than maybe others, simply because we grew up with this movie. This movie came out in 2005, and I went to the theater on a school night with my dad for the midnight showing at the Cinemark that was in town. And I had no idea of the vitriol that was going on around the prequels and the backlash to George Lucas. I didn't know all of this. I was 8, 9 years old, just falling in love with Star Wars for the first time. And 20 years later now is a perfect opportunity for, the people that love the prequels to be able to shower that panel with their affection for that movie, but also for the people who made that movie to get back together and see a room full of people that absolutely cherished that film as core Star Wars for them. It was integral to my love for movies. It was integral to who I am as a Star Wars fan. Like, that experience was one that I will never forget with my dad. And so much of Star Wars is familial that I think if we're, not that they're not trying to get these panels together, but if they're not able to put these panels together, to me it's disappointing in ways beyond not having a Star Wars showcase panel, like, in my opinion, because this is what Star Wars is all about. It's about, like I said, pushing us forward as a fandom, but bringing it back in and, grounding us in what is to come. Oscar says we having the Omega show do like something at the Battle of Scarif. I sure hope she wasn't at the Battle of Scarif, unless, she was not in the group that unless she was not in the group that made it on the surface of Scare. Like, as long as she was up with maybe Admiral Radiss's crew and she got out in hyperspace in time, sure. As long as she wasn't in like Blue Squadron there that made it through the shield and may have got obliterated by, Scarab forces of the Death Star, that'd be great. Nate, I hope you're feeling better. Miss you, my guy. Just he's popping in to say that he's not going to pass judgment until we see a full panel schedule. An animation panel could easily follow a Visions one. 100% agree. I'm just going off of what we have right now. And I think we will get an animation announcement. I think we will. I would like that announcement sooner rather than later. I want a little bit more to maybe look forward to, we're a month out here. And, Phil, I was born in 97. So yeah, very much. My first movie I remember seeing in theaters was Attack of the Clones. Like, I have in my car, actually. So I had a backpack that I wore to school when I was like kindergarten or whatever. And it's like awesome. It's like the black backpack with like the Battle of Geonosis on it. And then it has like Mace Windu, Padme, Anakin, Yoda, Obi-Wan, like all of the Jedi and important characters are right there. And then you just have the Battle of Geonosis underneath and some lightsabers and blaster fire on the side. And it's OG awesome backpack. Like, I will say. And I still have it because it's my emergency roadside assistance backpack that I have kept for years. Like, one of the zippers doesn't even work. It's just forever stuck in position. So I can't even open it all the way. But I got my first aid kit, got jumper cables in there, some tools in case like I ever break down or something happens on the side of the road. And I think it is fitting maybe that my emergency kit is my least favorite Star Wars movie, which is like kind of a state of emergency for some people after Attack of the Clones came out. But I love it. It's my first Star Wars movie I ever saw. And then Revenge of the Sith was the first movie I remember going to see with just my dad. So that was really special. And then yes, a story with Ahsoka or Omega with the Ghost Crew would be fantastic. So that's my Star Wars celebration, just 6-pack for right now. We're going to get some more over the next few weeks before, celebration actually happens. But one more, this is going to be super fast. And then I want to talk about Rey for 10 minutes before we get out of here. Actually, no, we'll talk about Rey first. Let's just go for it. So Kathleen Kennedy did not mention the Rey movie in her interview. I don't think that was unintentional. It wasn't brought up. It has some people extremely worried because she went out of her way. She's going to talk about this Sean Levy movie. She's going to talk about the fact that it takes place after The Rise of Skywalker. This is putting us forward in the saga. We even have news about Simon Kinberg dropping a script for a first movie for a new saga, and they probably have the outline for that entire trilogy. And that was something she felt comfortable saying. Yet, no word on Charmin Obey Shinoy and this Daisy Ridley movie, or if George Nolfi's even finished everything. Thank goodness Stephen Knight came out and said it was a pleasure working with Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy. A lot of people were worried or maybe upset about the fact that this wasn't mentioned. I'll be honest, I was hoping there'd be a Star Wars showcase panel at Celebration that would have alleviated all my concerns, but I'm actually not worried about this movie at all, and I don't think anyone should be worried. Maybe not about this movie, but about the character of Rey, because for a few reasons. Number one, if you're going to push the saga forward, in my opinion, you need to establish something with the character who was left with the keys to the kingdom at the end of The Rise of Skywalker. In my opinion, The Rise of Skywalker is not the culmination of Rey's journey. It's the finalization of her development into who she needs to be moving forward, much like a lot of people, to be honest, a lot of people were hoping with Luke and what we saw with the expanded universe, with what Luke did with the Jedi Order, and seeing those stories, that were written afterwards. I think Rey is in a much similar position. She has the Jedi texts. She is, quote unquote, all of the Jedi. She has learned how to, commune with them. She is the last remaining Jedi that we know of, but she's the last remaining one. She's carrying on the Skywalker name. She has the Falcon. She has everything that ties us to the Skywalker saga in her possession. She, in that movie, finally became who she needed to be. She understood that she was the hero that the galaxy needed and was able to put aside her demons, and it was a Skywalker that was able to help her do it. So it would feel weird if we're going to move forward in the saga for good and we're not going to have an update on Rey. Your most marketable character right now is Rey. Like, it is. She's tied to the saga, extremely popular. I don't care what the dude bros and grifters on YouTube, other YouTube channels, and are on Twitter have to say. Rey is extremely popular. She's your most marketable character. Daisy actively wants to come back. She came on stage at Celebration. She wants to be Rey. She loves being Rey. I think that as time has passed, she's grown to accept what maybe comes with the Star Wars fandom, and most of what she has endured is not acceptable. It's wrong. We can get into that another time. But I don't think that we're in any danger of not seeing the continuation of Rey's story. Now, the way that happens, I think, is going to be interesting. But there's no reason why they would drop or leak that George Nolfi is the new writer for this movie if that movie still wasn't in, production. If we still weren't trying to move forward with getting that movie into production. I think this Kathleen Kennedy having that interview and not mentioning the Rey movie was more about, hey, this is what we got in the pipeline that you don't know about. This is something to be excited about that isn't out there right now, which is when this Sean Levy movie is taking place. That Simon Kinberg's delivering me a script in 6 months, 4 months. That is what I think the conversation should really be about. And I'm a little bit upset that some people are taking the time right now to go dunk on the fact that she didn't mention Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy or Rey's movie, so Daisy and Sharmeen are both out. It's ridiculous. Like, just stop. That's just a ridiculous take to think that they're going to spend all this time and effort to get a Rey movie up and going, or at least Daisy back in Star Wars, and then do nothing with Daisy Ridley at Star Wars. That's not going to happen unless Daisy really just comes out of the woodwork and says, I don't want to play Rey anymore, which I can't see happening for reasons other than, she's been honest about, her health journey that she's been on. If something were to change there, that changes the story. But with all the information we have right now, I don't think there's any reason but to continue to hope that this movie can find its footing. Now, the Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy factor is interesting because we haven't really heard from her. Haven't heard from Sharmeen at all. And it hasn't really been talked about much. Like, Kennedy even saying what she did in that interview was like, oh my goodness, like, she's really laying it on us right now because we don't hear stuff like this from Lucasfilm very often, where they're just point blank, this is what's happening and this is where we're going. Like, this is something we usually see at a celebration. And the last time we were at a celebration was when they brought Mangold, Filoni, Charmin, Daisy on stage. And there's no word on the Filoni movie. Mangold's movie is, I guess, progressing as it should. And, Ray's movie has been in rewrites, changing writers, new scripts over and over and over for a year now. But I think we're in a good place. I think that the fact that Stephen Knight says he thinks that most of what he wrote is going to be in the final iteration of this movie is positive. I think that Daisy will have something sooner rather than later. I would not put it out of the realm of possibility that she is there and they do a surprise at the end of maybe a Mando Grogu panel. I don't think that that's something that could be ignored at this point. Now, if you want to say you're concerned because there was no mention, I do understand that, and there may actually be this delay that extends beyond just, a year. Like, this movie was originally thought to come out December 26th. They've eliminated that time slot, and we're going to push it back a year, maybe a year and a half. Sure. Maybe the Sean Levy movie doesn't include Ray at all, and it's a precursor, but I'll be damned if her presence is not looming large over that movie. There's no way you're going to do a movie 5 to 6 years after The Rise of Skywalker and there not be a single mention of Ray. Maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be hey, man, you hear what Ray Skywalker's doing with the Jedi Order? Oh, no, maybe. No, but her presence has to be looming. That's too soon after The Rise of Skywalker, and this is going to be a major production. I mean, we're talking, if we're bringing Sean Levy, Ryan Gosling, this is going to have a giant budget. Star Wars is going to be banking on this to be the intro, the setup. The Sabrina Carpenter to the Taylor Swift is going to be the Mando Grogu movie to this Sean Levy and Ryan Gosling movie. And Ray better be at least name dropped, or we're going to know about the Jedi Master or Master Skywalker or something to do with the Jedi. There has to be some seeds planted that maybe push us forward to what that Rey movie is going to be, or maybe Simon Kinberg has something cooking with Rey that we aren't aware of that takes place in the same timeline, and maybe they're merging some of these things together. I don't know. I don't think so, but I'm not concerned about Rey at all. I just want to really didn't want to spin. I was hoping to have more of a discussion on that, but unfortunately we had some people get sick tonight. But I wanted to at least put that out there that there is nothing to be concerned about right now. I think that no news is fine. If we're sitting here a year from now with no news, then I might pass out from a heart attack because we haven't heard anything from Rey. But I don't think that it makes sense to move forward in the saga without having your most marketable character able to help bridge that gap and push you there. To have one of your most popular characters right now, get you out there. To have someone that everyone wants to see. I think Rey wield that yellow lightsaber with the staff. There's other things that you could do with that. Having John Boyega be willing to come back would be fantastic. I mean, Oscar Isaac's at Star Wars Celebration this April, and I didn't think he'd ever come back to a convention, to be honest, not anytime soon. But maybe cashing those checks is worth it, I guess. I don't know. Phil says, oh, okay, so you're just a few years older than me too. I too fell in love with Star Wars around the time of prequels with the release of The Revenge of the Sith as a little one, and it's so true that I want to do a pod about, will people fall in love with movies like the same way that our generation did, or my generation did, because like there's generations now. As a middle school teacher, they don't consume things anywhere near the way I consume things. But so I'm really curious what this sequel generation is going to look like, because kids, they don't live at the movie theater. Like, there are so many things that they're doing. They're scrolling, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram. They're not, I don't know if they love going to the movies. They're not growing up with films right now. I don't know if what it's going to look like in 15 years. I'm really fascinated to hopefully I can live 15 more years. Hopefully we're all around in 15 years. So I'm going to close this out. Just a little Andor stuff. I had a few Andor thoughts just based off the little sizzle reel that they dropped. And the first one is going to be negative. It's the freaking floating heads poster again, guys. We cannot escape the floating heads. We have how many the how many people can we fit on one poster? I know that these are in contracts and that people have to sometimes they contract like they will be present on the poster. I get it. Oh my gosh. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 characters. 10. I'm not counting our little paper people, stormtroopers there in the bushes, but 10 characters on the poster. I can't. These floating head posters kill me every time. I mean, I'm gonna put up one more time. It just kills me. I hate them. Like I hate them. Say what you want about The Last Jedi, but some of those posters were fantastic with the red, and it was just single characters with the red backgrounds dripping around. You would even get like maybe the full body just like on the side. Like I love these. Go back to the prequels. We were talking about the prequels. I mean, there's the prequel posters were awesome. There were some epic posters in there. Thinking about Anakin on Phantom Menace, one of the him walking with Vader's shadow behind him. Like those are fantastic posters, and some of these posters they just let me just Photoshop and mesh them all together and squeeze it all there. It's just I don't know. It's not in. It's just it lacks ingenuity for me, lacks inspiration, and I'm someone who I love to collect like posters and different things. Like I bought some new art actually recently we talked about Battlestar earlier. I got this Battlestar Galactica. I don't know if you can see that very well with the glare, but it's like Battlestar Raider with like Cylons there in the background. Like I don't know. I love some good art, like good posters, but it's just that doesn't do it for me. The floating heads, it just can we get away with that? I know that there's contracts about their head's gonna be in this poster, they're gonna be here, but can we find another way to do it? Like, hey, we'll give you Deidre, we'll give you your own poster. Luthen, we'll give you your own poster. Cyril, hell, we'll give you a half a poster. But do we need to have all of them there? Like, just give me something different. But I'm ready for Andor. It's gonna be great. Only other thing I really took from that is I hope that K2SO gets involved sooner rather than later. I hope that they don't drag out the story and we only get one arc with Cassian and K2 as, their buddy cop like situation. I want to see those characters more like together. Like I hope that it's early on in the first 6 episodes that they reprogram K2SO, Cassian and him meet, they get him reprogrammed, he joins the rebellion, and Cassie and him become buddies. Like I want that to happen in the first 2 arcs of the show. So the last 2 arcs, we just get to have as many of those exciting moments with them as we can, because we know, like, obviously it ends and it's heartbreaking in Rogue One when K2 goes, and we only met them for, a handful of minutes on the screen. So give me a couple stories with just them having some missions together where that bond gets to grow. I would love to explore that over the last half of the show versus only maybe get it for the last arc. Like I hope it happens in the first arc and then we get more, but I'll settle for 6 episodes instead of 3. That's really what I'm hoping for. Last thing here, I think the Gorman massacre, we know it's happening. We know it's happening. I think it's going to be by far the most goriest or intense, dark thing that we've seen in Star Wars. And Revenge of the Sith, we talk about Revenge of the Sith. There's some dark moments in there. There's some dark stuff in Andor season 1, like just some, oh my gosh. But I think they're going to go for it. A lot of people I saw online, there's some disappointment that they're not going to do the whole Tarkin just dropping his ship on people. And that it's just going to be stormtroopers shooting protesters, which maybe isn't, for some people, doesn't hit as hard. I think it's fantastic. No, you forget, I'm not saying that's fantastic. I'm saying that story, that's fantastic. I think they'll include elements of both. We hear in the comms there, like, their ships are landing, Imperial ships are landing. I think we might see something mirroring all of what's happened in Legends and what they're maybe doing here. I think we're going to see something that's going to leave us shaking. And this is going to be the last episode. It's either going to be the last episode, it's going to be episode 6, or it's going to be episode 9. Like, I think it's one of those two, because we know that it takes place like 2 BBY. It just depends on it really just depends on like how they want to frame the timing in their mind, like, because you could easily say it's 1 year each time, we're right before Rogue One, it has to take place in the like the third arc, but they could easily do like a end of arc 2 leading us into arc 3. They can make it work. They can fudge the numbers a little bit to make it work. I think that that's going to be the episode of the season where we just sit there and we're just mouths agape in all of what happened. And I think it's going to be the darkest thing we've ever seen in Star Wars. I just think that we're going to see people brutally murdered. I think we're going to see tanks coming in and just laying waste to people. We might see, that might be a one Tarkin moment we get if he is there and he just orders them to drop, a ship right on a bunch of people. We see the scene in the sizzle reel where Dedra says proceed. And I'm wondering if it has to do with something sinister. Like maybe they're changing Tarkin, dropping his ship to Dedra is giving the order to do something even worse. Like they lay waste to a whole group of people with weapon of mass destruction, other than the Death Star, obviously, because that's not around yet. So the Gorham Massacre is going to be bloody. And then last thing is, I've heard a lot of things about Cyril being a turncoat. Like, I see it. Like, I see Cyril being a turncoat. I could see it, him working for the rebellion. Things get out of hand. Things with Dedra aren't going too well. And he finally realizes the Empire is, oh my goodness, this is not for me. And he has the arc of the guy that's blindingly devoted to quote unquote order with the Empire, and that gets turned around completely to him working for the rebellion. There's the scene of him facing K2SOs, or not K2SO, but like that droid, his type of droid. I'm blanking on the name right now, but he's facing all of them. So maybe he's working for the rebellion at that point. Personally, I kind of like the arc that he's on of just being this guy that's going to go down for the Empire. Like he's just down for fascism. He's just pretty excited about, he wants to be with a fascist. He wants to make love to a fascist. He wants to do anything for fascism and maintaining his way of order. Like I'm just down for him to be the guy that is always getting got in a sense. And he goes down just not even having any sense of like right or wrong, like this is wrong, that what the Empire is doing. He just says whatever we have to do to maintain order is the right thing to do. I'm perfectly fine with that. There's going to be so many rebels in the show, and we don't necessarily need another turncoat on there. I hope we get some larger form space battles. Having the brief skirmish with Luthen was really nice in season 1, but I hope we get a longer form space battle. That would be really exciting to see. A couple of comments here. Oscar said, "I have a feeling Luthen will not make it past the 3rd chapter. I was thinking Luthen's character is based on, I'm not even gonna say Jean Moulin, a French resistance leader who was charged with bringing together the different factions. Unfortunately, he was captured, tortured, and executed. Known how Gilroy uses history in his character and story development. It's well known, yeah. Tony Gilroy definitely takes from historical battles, historical references, and sprinkles them into, his stories. Especially we see that in Star Wars, Rogue One, and Andor. Luthen, it seems fitting maybe that he doesn't make it to the final chapter. Like he doesn't get to see the final iteration of the rebellion. Like he doesn't even get to see Rogue One happen. And so it makes sense maybe that he doesn't make it to the end of the 3rd chapter. And the last chapter is about Mon Mothma coming into her own without Luthen. It's about everyone in the rebellion having to now find their place without the person that brought them together, Cassian especially. And Cassian has to get to the guy we see him as in Rogue One. And I truly believe that that's going to take a full season. That's going to take a full season of 12 episodes for him to do that. And losing Luthen is going to be a big part of that. And so I agree with you, Oscar. I think third chapter makes some sense. I think if we have Gorham Massacre taking place maybe episode 6, Luthen's Death's episode 9, and then we get led into Rogue, and then episode 7 is going to be the epic return. We have Mon Mothma delivering her Senate speech, maybe something along those lines. I guess no, that wouldn't happen because she wouldn't wait a year. So never mind. Episode 6, Gorham Massacre. Mon Mothma talking about it simultaneously. They're going back and forth in like a flashback sequence. I don't know, something like that. So a couple more comments here. It's interesting because we were on the younger side, the prequel generation, with those late 90s, early 2000s kids. Now you have the sequel children. Yeah, sequel children growing up with coming of age with their own opinions. And it makes me, I'm really curious to see what the future of Star Wars is for like the younger generation right now. It's fascinating to me. I can't wait to see what Star Wars is like in 15, 20 years. I don't think we're in such a bad place like some people like to make it out because they can make money off of being negative a-holes. That we're in like the worst place in the world. I don't think that's true. I think the Star Wars is always one great story away, one great movie away, one touching story away from being as popular as ever. I mean, we saw that when Star Wars was gone for 10 years and The Force Awakens came out and just the massive movement of Star Wars is back. You know, that happened. The Mandalorian came out after The Last Jedi. And I love The Last Jedi. I'm a big Last Jedi defender, but I will also acknowledge that there are problems with that movie and that in terms of how the fandom has received it and how it has split the fandom. And I respect people who, you know, have different opinions of me on The Last Jedi. I respect that. And I want people to get the Star Wars that they think that they deserve as well. And the Mandalorian came out after The Last Jedi and was a global phenomenon. It is easy to say that The Mandalorian was a global phenomenon, still is. And that came after the thing that supposedly divided us, you know, beyond repair. So I don't think that Star Wars is ever going to be, I hope, in a place that's beyond repair. I don't think we're there now. I don't think we're going to be there in the future because I think Andor is going to be great. I think that The Mandalorian Grogu is going to be a fun, just chill movie, and we'll move forward from there. So if you haven't been tuning in to us on the regular, normally there's a couple other people on here. They could not make it tonight. We had some illnesses, some prior engagements. So I tried to come on here and do my best job at a solo pause. The first time I've ever done anything like this by myself. So I hope that you do not die of boredom completely. I had a lot of fun, chatting tonight. It was fun to be able to talk Star Wars, whether it's in a silent echo chamber or with, some other people as well. It's always a privilege. The timeline show is something that I'm really passionate about. I want to put out there is my friend Luke, who's sometimes on our live show. The two of us do a Star Wars timeline show every weekend. We put out an episode pretty much every weekend going over the next piece of Star Wars canon material. So right now we're in the year 231 BBY, and we are going to be talking about Out of the Shadows next, which is a young adult novel by Justina Ireland, taking place in the High Republic. We just did Race to Crash Point Tower last week, and I reread all of these books every week. Like I always, reread these books before we talk about them. So it's not something you can trust me. I'm not just, BSing you on these talks. So I always reread them, and Luke and I have a fun discussion on Star Wars. Check out our Monday podcast, which will be about something. I don't know yet. We're figuring that out, but most of the time we have a early week podcast. This last week, you can check it out from a couple of days ago. My friend Paul, if you want to go check some of his stuff out, he has a great comic book podcast called The Comic Binge. He also has a Star Wars podcast called The Saga Continues. You can check that out. But the two of us talked about basically we do a recap every month. So this was the recap of February, and there was so much that happened in Star Wars in February. So I look forward to talking with him again in the end of March. But go check out that podcast from this week. It's if you want something really just put on the background while you're just hanging out, it's a great podcast for that because it's just two guys hashing out about the news about Star Wars for the week. My initial reaction to the Andor trailer is out there if you want that. But as always, go check out Star Wars Newsnet for all of your Star Wars news. what sets us apart here is that we get, we give you the quotes, the main things, the interviews from the trades that are coming in, but we try to dig deeper and give you like that personal touch that you want as a Star Wars fan that you don't get other places because they're just going for the clicks. They're going for, what's going to drive revenue to them. And we don't care about that. We want to give you the best Star Wars experience you can. So we're going to lay it all out for you. We have some great people on the team. Our guy Nate's not here today. He handles our social media. He's going to have some good reviews coming up. We just reviewed Jedi Knights, new comic book that just came out. Go check that out. I heard it was really solid start to that series, that run. Haven't seen it for myself yet. Want to check that out soon. We have some great people on there. Go check out Miguel, who's usually on, every once in a while. Has a great Sunday piece called Far. I think he calls it. Oh my gosh, it's a great Sunday piece. It's like his weekly newsletter. It's like This Week in a Galaxy Far, Far Away. There it is. Sorry, Miguel, I butchered that for you. But go check us out. Hit the like and subscribe button here on YouTube. It's a great time chatting with you all. Good night, and remember, for light and life, everyone, we are all the Republic.